Hi Linda and Greg, good to see your videos on YouTube and your work that you're doing in trying to raise the awareness of ME to the wider community, and I do thank you for the work that you're doing and for your bravery. I just thought that I might share a little bit about my story in dealing with this condition, and it hasn't been, I haven't had it for that long compared with you. It started in December 2002, but getting recognition and a diagnosis was extremely difficult, and part of the difficulty for me coming to terms with the diagnosis of ME is the whole emphasis that's put on chronic fatigue. But just to share a little bit about where I've come from and the things that have happened, I hope this isn't just this is actually useful to someone. Back in 2002, I went to my doctor to have a flu vaccination. And within days of having the flu vaccination, I started to experience dizziness whenever I tried to stand up. I had an altered sensation down the side of my face, which felt as if it was numb, and felt generally unwell. And I eventually, at the same time, I'd been put on different blood pressure tablets, and initially assumed that's what it was. And I went back to my GP and was just signed off work for a few more weeks, and nothing cleared up. So I went back again, and by this time I was starting to have real problems with my balance, and my speech was becoming more difficult. And so the GP who I saw this time, who was a locum, sent me to see a neurologist, and the neurologist did the usual neurological examination and found nothing wrong. So he told me it was probably stress, and virtually told me to pull myself up and go back to work. Well, of course this wasn't possible, and I went back to my GP, saw a different locum, and they made arrangements for me to see another neurologist for a second opinion. This neurologist was a bit more understanding, and at least sent me for a few more tests, and I had a number of blood tests and an MRI. But as these revealed nothing, he too virtually said, go back to work, nothing wrong with you. But this was impossible. By this time I was experiencing other symptoms. In May of last year I started to get lots of myoclonic jerks, and it started within a matter of a few days. First I had the odd one where I'd throw my head back, and then on bank holiday weekend I spent 3 days with having very strong myoclonic jerks, which were coming at 2 every minute, and eventually phoned for a doctor and got diazepam. But even though I was having these, when I saw the second neurologist, he still didn't take any notice and virtually writ everything off. So I waited again for another few months. I kept going and seeing the GP, and he was very understanding but didn't know what to do, and eventually got another appointment for my third neurologist. Now, this neurologist is located at Hurstville Park in East Sussex, and Hurstville Park is a really good neurological centre. And I had 2 days of tests, including lumbar puncture and MRI, and a series of blood tests, and saw a neuropsychologist, and all of these, and everything came out as being normal. So I eventually have been given a diagnosis of having ME, and that's been quite difficult to come to terms with, as I said, because ME is so often associated just with chronic fatigue. And yes, I do get fatigued, but the difficulties I have are more with my mobility. I can walk very, very small distances. This time last year I was able, with some struggle, to walk about a mile, which I tried to do every day because I didn't want to get deconditioned. But I worked with people with disabilities for a number of years, and I know that if you stop using things you lose them, and so I would go on a mile or so walk, but this gradually decreased and became more difficult. And recently my legs now, it's as if the signals don't get there. My right foot drags, toe drags, and really I can't walk more than a few yards, and it'll take me 15 minutes to walk 100 yards or so, and I will know it then for the rest of the day. But it's been quite a struggle, and I can see how this disorder is so difficult to come to terms with, particularly as it's still not taken seriously by so many people, and yet it's totally destroyed very many parts of my life, and I can see that it has done the same for you. I have been very fortunate in that I don't suffer a great deal of pain. Most of it is discomfort from the involuntary movements, and the general difficulty with cognition and speech, all of which are quite difficult to deal with. And I've found that you do tend to feel socially excluded in some way. The next step I need to take is to get used to the fact that sometimes I'm going to have to be wheeled around in a wheelchair by my wife. Quite difficult. Perhaps it's just a man thing, I don't know, but quite difficult. But anyhow, that's enough of me babbling on. I just want to thank you once again for your videos, and just say keep up the great work.